All right, gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of Politics in a Heat Wave. And today we're going to have to talk about populism. Specifically, we're going to have to talk about the fundamental tension at the heart of the Western political system, which has generated this populist problem we have had for a very long time now. So we touched upon this in the video where I discussed really the idiotic nature of the Israeli-Iranian-American war, where basically the reason why Israel and America have to go to war with Iran is because Benjamin Netanyahu is a criminal who is facing criminal charges on corruption in Israel, and Donald Trump is a narcissist who really needs to insert himself into everything. So Donald Trump saw footage of the war on Fox News and wanted in on it, wanted to take credit for it. So it's really that stupid, and these people are incredibly stupid, and they should have been breaking rocks in some prison somewhere, but now they're leading major nations. So we're not living in a good world. But we touched upon this when I said that how does the Likudnik in Israel, Likud is, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu's party. How does the Netanyahu supporter in Israel rationalize the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is a literal criminal who's been selling officer billets in the IDF to his cronies? Something that Donald Trump is, by the way, doing. You know, he's selling positions in the United States military to the executives of OpenAI, of Palantir, of other tech bro oligarch criminal entities. And how do they rationalize support of this criminal who has destroyed Israel standing on the international stage? I remember before the Netanyahu premiership, Israel was a respected country. I mean, people were a little miffed about the whole settler business and the displacement of Palestinians, but nobody was really in fuck Israel mode. It was like, hey, Israel, we're friends, I love you, clean up your act, don't do this stupid thing. But Netanyahu has completely destroyed Israel's standing in the world, especially in the West. And I mean, let's face facts here. Without support of the West, Israel will not survive. So how is it possible that Israelis have taken on this incredibly stupid? How is it possible that even if you're a Likudnik, right, and if you really hate those Tel Aviv rich white Ashkenazi socialists with protection, with privilege, which is a genuine slur which Likudniks use for the Israeli left and center, how can you, hate them so much that you're willing to endanger the survival of Israel? And those of you who follow MAGA might be asking the same question. Okay, how the fuck is MAGA willing to jeopardize America's standing in the world? How is MAGA willing to jeopardize fucking hurricane prediction and protection from scams, like Elon Musk dismantling the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because it prevents rich people from scamming. It prevents these, crypto scammers on the internet from scamming old ladies. Why the fuck would you agree to that? And the answer is populism. And populism is often presented as, authoritarian dilettantes, charismatic dilettantes, first absorbing and then channeling out the will of the people, and then inserting this will of the people into a stodgy and, unresponsive political system. But it's not. I mean, there is an element of that, and I would certainly say that our political system in the West has become a little bit stodgy and inflexible. But fundamentally, populism comes from this deep tension at the heart of the European social and political model. Now, like a million years ago, Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, the German philosopher, the founder of German idealism, or some would say the completion of German idealism, said that essentially at the Battle of Jena in Germany during the Napoleonic War, the great discussion of Western civilization was complete, and that it became clear to everyone the central ideology of the West has become the dogma that all men are free and equal. Now, that is a contradiction in terms. That is a very clear contradiction, because if all men are free, then the natural inequalities of men will come to light, and if all men are equal, then this will necessarily entail some degree of unfreedom for some men, and that's but it came to that this is the central ideology of our civilization, and to dismantle this ideology is to dismantle our civilization, to dismantle it in either direction. And so you have generally two forces arrayed against one another. And the first I guess we could call it liberal technocracy, right? Liberal technocracy, which aims to mitigate the amount of unfreedom in the world between the citizens of the country, at the very least, and hence, really the progressive agenda, which is really just a way of making sure that the new realities of the industrial and post-industrial world do not generate excessive unfreedom. Understand that this is the ideology which accepts the paradox, accepts the contradiction, and seeks to minimize the harm to both freedom and equality while allowing them to coexist at the same time within the Western paradigm. It is influenced by John Stuart Mill's rule utilitarianism. Essentially, let's maximize the amount of equality and freedom for everyone, whilst not crossing these rules, these boundaries, which would create ruin for some. So the classic thing is, would it make everyone happy to kill that one very annoying guy? And yeah, the entire community would enjoy stomping on the very annoying guy. And so the overall amount of happiness in the world will increase. So by classic utilitarianism, yeah, we should stomp on the guy's head and kill him because it would make everyone happy. But rule utilitarianism says, yes, whilst we do pursue the highest amount of happiness possible, we draw the line at stomping on people's heads, right? So the annoying guy's minimum level of happiness and well-being is taken into account when we draft our equation. It's not really an equation. You can sorta, kinda guesstimate it, but it's there. It's an imperfect system, but it's a function, an imperfect, non-utopian functioning system. These are most of the systems which preside over good times. Trying to build utopias doesn't really work all that well. But the other side of it is, and this one comes from Ben Franklin, or maybe it was Jefferson, I forget, like the idea of democracy being two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for dinner. And that's populism. Populism takes this notion that if you have the will of the people behind you, then the law doesn't matter. That shouldn't be rule of law, because the will of the people should be above the law, whatever the law is, right? And of course, the liberal democratic system, the liberal technocratic system, takes into account the will of the people and uses it to change the law so that we may maintain rule of law, so that men can be free, right? And still we can have a measure of consent of the governed, right? But populism says, no, if we do a head count and my party is greater than yours, then I should be unrestrained in my rule in all ways, right? And very often these head counts, these majorities that people purport to, they're not very, very high at all, right? So for example, Donald Trump won by a very slim majority in his second term, like in 2024. He did not win the majority popular vote in America in his first term. He does not really have a vast popular mandate like, say, Barack Obama or Ronald Reagan had. And even those guys, they faced very strong, entrenched opposition to their agendas, which is a good thing, right? You shouldn't want to rock the boat too much. And you get the same thing with Likud. I mean, does anyone genuinely think that Likud represents the whole of Israel when they very explicitly frame their opponents as white Ashkenazi socialists with privilege, right? This is a party of racial hatred against Ashkenazi Jews by Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews, right? I don't know how they do it, but yeah, they're doing it in Israel. In any case, right? So there's this fiction that because there are more of us, we get to do whatever the fuck we want. That's populism. And the law doesn't matter. There's more of us. And tradition doesn't matter. There's more of us. And custom doesn't matter. There's more of us. I was speaking to an American, and he said, well, it doesn't really matter that Trump is breaking American alliances because those were negotiated by another administration. I say, what fucking matters, It doesn't matter that another president negotiated this deal. You are still held to it. You're still held to it because it's the country making the deal, not the administration, not the president. But the will of the people. Who voted for dismantling FEMA? Who voted for dismantling the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? Who voted against hurricane protection? You tell me one person who supports ending hurricane prediction, ending weather reports. That's really populism for you. The notion that because our charismatic dilettante garnered more votes than your charismatic dilettante, then we get to erase law, we get to erase custom, we get to erase tradition, we get to erase whatever the fuck we want and construct whatever the fuck we want. And that's an anti-civilizational position. It's specifically an anti-Western, anti-European position. Because like I said, we said all men are free and equal. And these people say, well, no, we're more equal than you because there's more of us, and you don't get to be free because there's more of us. And that's dangerous and has to be stopped by unequal and unfree measures if need be. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.